Alright guys, thank you for clicking the third video in the Evo 5 series. We're going to talk about a few things that I hate about the Evo 5. Now I'll say this, I absolutely love this car, but yes, there are a few things that I do not like. Let's not use the word hate. In today's video we'll cover a few things that I think could be different about the car, probably some things I'm going to change about the car, and just what it's like owning a right-hand drive Evo 5 stateside. The car did come about 80 to 90% of exactly how I would have done it had I built the car from ground up. Now the car doesn't have that many mods, but in my opinion it has all the right mods, and like I said, a lot of things that I probably would have done had I built the car, which is why I chose to buy this particular car amongst all the other Evo 5s that I was looking at. Let's jump right into the video of a few things that I absolutely hate about the Evo 5. Make sure you watch to the end where I actually do a recap of a few things that I love about the car. Alright, so first thing that I absolutely dislike, absolutely don't hate on this car are the wheels. Now I know, listen, I know, you're probably thinking they're TE37s. I've been talking about TE37s for a long time. It's a wheel that I've wanted for a long time, and I got them on the car. I think the white looks amazing on the silver. I think the wheels make a great combination with the color, the look. It absolutely does look right. The fitment is almost perfect, but they're a little bit big and they're a little bit wide. It does affect the performance of this car. Now, coming from the Swisher 8 Evo, what I was chasing with having this car was just a smaller version, a little bit lighter, of a performance Evo. That was the experience that I had with Evos to start with. So it is what I'm looking for in this car. Now, the car drives well, but whenever you get into hard cornering or you get into a little bit more aggressive driving, it does rub. The wheels are 18 by 9.5, which is pretty aggressive for this car. What I would probably like to see on this car is like a 17 by 9 with a little bit of a chunkier tire. Now, not too much, because I remember with the Evo 8, I did put tires that were a little bit too big and it destroyed the ride as well. So I'm likely gonna change these, or at least have a second set of wheels. I don't know what wheels I'll be going with, but I do know that I will likely be changing these wheels to try to gain back that experience that I originally had in the Evo and originally I was looking for. The other day the tire did pull on the fender, which I have to be careful with. These fenders are pretty hard to find stateside, and I want to make sure I don't mess them up. The second thing I absolutely hate, this one I do actually hate about this car, is the clutch. Now, the clutch, it grabs perfectly fine. I think it's an appropriate performance clutch to what this car is making power level, but it chatters so much. It's so loud, and it sounds like this thing would make 900 horsepower with such an aggressive clutch, but the truth is, I think it's just a characteristic of the clutch itself. I don't know if the throttle bearing was replaced when they did the clutch. The person that did modify the car did a really nice job, so I would expect yes, but I don't know if it was an original Mitsubishi throttle bearing or if it was part of the clutch kit that came with the throttle bearing. After talking to a lot of people say the best thing you could do is just put a Mitsubishi throttle bearing. So I would expect over the winter, I am gonna pull the transmission out just to see. It doesn't hurt to throw in a throttle bearing. If ultimately it's still making the same noises, then we'll know it's a characteristic of the clutch itself, and then I'll be looking at potentially changing that clutch. Clutch manufacturing companies out there, if you're watching this, would like to put a different clutch in this car, so be happy to work with you. Third thing I absolutely hate about this car. All right, I don't really hate it, but it's not a mod I would have done. And I do get it because it's in, and I think a lot of people would probably do this mod. But as far as I go, I probably wouldn't have. And that's gonna be all the LED bulbs all over every single option on this car. The previous owner changed everything over to LED, from the dome lights, the headlights, which I do like because I do live in a very dark area at night with a lot of animals, so I would probably have done LED headlights, but I don't know that I would have done the LED daytime running lights. Also the side markers. The side markers are probably going to be the first thing I change on this car. They're LED, but they're like this weird strip LED, and I really don't like it, and I don't think it goes with the car. The problem that I'm having is I want to change this over to still clear, because the car does have clear corner lights, which I think look phenomenal, but I'm having a hard time finding the clear corner lights for the Evo 5. Now, I went to a local car meet yesterday. I met some pretty cool people. One of the guys had an Evo 8, and we were having this conversation, and he actually gave me Evo 8 clear corner lights. So I'm gonna pull those off at some point and try to retrofit Evo 9 clear corners to the Evo 5 fenders. Hopefully it works. I haven't found an Evo 5 clear corner light yet, but if I can find one of those and just throw it on, I think that's probably the best bet. Now, the next thing I absolutely dislike, I might be reaching on this one, is gonna be the fact that the car is right-hand drive. I'm having a good time driving this car, but I will say that this is a completely different layout, because in Japan they also drive on the left-hand side of the road. Here in the US, we drive on the right-hand side, which has its challenges, and what it does is pretty much create all these blind spots. Now, it's not a big deal. You do end up getting used to it, but initially when I started driving this thing, I would find myself having so many blind spots, and it was getting pretty challenging to drive this thing. As I get more and more acclimated, it absolutely gets better. Now, another funny thing that happens when you drive right-hand drive, I've since kind of stopped doing it, but anytime I actually let anyone drive the car, what they do is as soon as they go to shift, for some reason, oh, that's not good. We'll be adding that to the list. So that's the Japanese toll thing that speaks to you in Japanese. It's pretty awesome. So whenever I let anybody drive the car, what ends up happening is they churn the steering wheel over, because your body naturally feels like you should be closer to the left-hand side, because we drive left-hand drive cars here in the US. So you find yourself basically jerking the wheel and putting yourself either in the middle or on the opposite lane. It's pretty interesting, to say the least. When you drive right-hand drive in the United States, especially getting used to it, you don't want any distractions, like a quick text, or looking at your phone, or dropping something, or for whatever odd reason looking off to the side. Your body's always naturally going to want to put yourself closer to the left-hand side of the lane, and what that does, it puts the whole entire car either in the middle or further to the left. It definitely takes some getting used to, and I've been driving the car now for like 2 to 3 weeks, and I do feel like I'm starting to get used to it. But it's so funny, every time I let anybody drive it that hasn't driven right-hand drive, it's immediately what they do. Now, this isn't the first right-hand drive car that I've owned. I did have an Austin Mini, but that thing was a 1960 or 72, I think, if I remember correctly. That was much smaller, which felt much smaller, and it was slower. So it gave you a little bit more control on where you would be in the lane. Even if you shifted over, that thing was so small that you would still be in the lane. But this car being bigger, not saying that it's a big car, you definitely feel it, and you definitely feel like you need to be paying more attention to what you're doing to make sure, A, you're not, distracted or potentially causing an accident. That's a short list of a few things I dislike about the Evo 5. Now, let's cover all of the things I absolutely love about this car. Now, for me personally, this was an addition to my existing car collection. What I really love about this car is simply how practical it is. It's a 4-door. It has very comfortable interior. The car runs really, really well, has working AC, has a working radio.
Recording a YouTube video?
I am. Yeah, I'll put you in the video. Did you see it? Alright. If you remember the Swisher car, one of the things I hated the most about that car is that the windows actually didn't roll down. They were fixed windows, which made it very challenging to go through drive-thrus. Maybe if it got a little bit warmer out, I couldn't roll the window down. I had no AC. Or if it was cold, which made it a little bit easier because I can manually kind of fix the window up. But it was a challenge, and being a 4-door car, I wasn't actually able to enjoy that thing. Another thing I really love about this car is pretty quick. It's definitely not slow, and it's an Evo, so it's all-wheel drive and turbo and 4-cylinder, and it's not heavy. So it feels really, really, really awesome. I absolutely love driving it. I do have future plans to get this thing tuned. Supposedly it was tuned by a company out in Japan that did like a Japanese style tune. Now I don't know a ton about Japan, but what I have heard is that they have better fueling in Japan. The car is being ran on 93, but I do feel like the air-fuel ratios are a little bit on the lean side. Not that the car is lean by any means, but I still think that it could use some adjustment. Now, the problem I'm running into is an Evo 5 stateside, a lot of people haven't experienced yet, and it's kind of becoming a challenge trying to get this car tuned. So far, we have to dig into the factory ECU system to see if there's a well-known tuner local can tune it. So far, I've had bad luck with that. The second option is going with a standalone, which I don't mind, although I was looking to keep this thing close to original as possible. But we're gonna look into that option if we have to, and then just try to find something that's plug and play that can easily be reversible, because you just never know. The cost of these things are going up, and I would hate to do something that's gonna A, be permanent, or B, kind of ruin the car. So we'll look for an option that is not gonna do much harm to the car, and hopefully just improve the drivability of it. As you can see in the video, it did shut off. It does happen to me every once in a while when I have the AC on and I kind of come to a light. It doesn't make any loud noises or anything like that, but it absolutely does shut off sometimes. So we'll try to see if we can get that fixed. Another thing I love is, well, as you can see, the Evo gets a lot of attention. It's a cool car. It's much more subtle than my Evo 8 because the Evo 8 had all the livery, but this one's absolutely more subtle. I did want a car that I could just kind of blend in. I didn't want to get something that was kind of screaming attention just like the Evo 8. This thing's still a lot of fun. People that know what it is, they're blown away to see it stateside and just kind of drive it around. But to your everyday person, it's just a regular car. Now, what I love the most about this car is absolutely the exterior. In my opinion, this thing is screaming 90s, JDM, race car, rally. It checks off all the boxes. It looks good. It's timeless. I mean, all the body lines are absolutely amazing. I think Mitsubishi did a phenomenal job at putting this car together. It was way ahead of its time. It had way more race spec features and stuff like that we didn't really see in most cars stateside. And it's absolutely one of my favorite parts of the whole entire car. Now, this is one thing that I said I need to get was this color. Normally, I do not like silver cars. Silver cars are not my favorite. And secondly, I almost hate white wheels, which is a weird coincidence, right? But on this car, I think it's perfect. I think it flows well. I love the color. The color really brings out all the body lines on this car, especially when the sun hits it. You just get all the right reflections and you see all those intended body lines that were purposeful for this car. I think it's amazing. I mean, such a small car that just looks so good. Now, the wheels do get dirty, which are driving me nuts. There's a lot of brake dust with Evos, but that's okay. I mean, we could live with it, and overall, it does flow really well. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. There's so many more videos that we're gonna be putting out shortly, but I do wanna say thank you for watching so far. There's gonna be mods to the Evo, there's some coverage coming for the 930. We're gonna be doing a lot of Samurai stuff and potentially some pretty cool projects. So I can't share everything that I'm working on right now, but I appreciate everyone so much for watching and just kind of sticking with me through this whole thing. Please like, please subscribe to the channel. It helps motivate me to keep making these videos and keep bringing content. So that's all.